In today's Leeds news, Leeds' interest in Genk defender, Aaronson could return early, Leeds' linked keeper has options, and can Leeds hold on to Joe Rodon? Morning folks, Jay here on the 14th of December, Thursday, with your Leeds United news. A little bit of stuff starting to float around now, some dust getting kicked up off to the back of comments Daniel Farke made in his press conference during the week about the Leeds looking for a left back in January. Now all of a sudden left backs are starting to be linked with Leeds. This tends to happen. We are getting closer and closer to the January window opening, which will see Leeds make some moves in the defensive areas and hopefully some in the number 10 position as well. There's a little bit, so we'll get into this. We'll try and keep this short and we'll crack on. We'll start off with this. According to the Mail, Leeds have interest in English left back Archie Brown, who is plying his trade in Belgium currently with Genk. Archie Brown is a Derby County graduate, although he failed to make a senior appearance for Derby. On the back of that, the player pushed for a move away from the club to get game time and joined Lausanne. His performances for Lausanne got him in the crosshairs of Genk, who purchased the player. There is also said to be interest in the 21-year-old from the Premier League as well, with Everton and Burnley both said to be very keen on the player, as well as Leeds in the Championship. There are some issues here though. The player has represented two teams so far this season, playing 3 times for Lausanne before moving to Genk. That would mean, according to FIFA rules, that he can't represent a third team this season, meaning a summer move is more likely. Now, that doesn't line up with Daniel Farke's comments about bringing a left back in January. What that could mean maybe is that Leeds are looking more long term for a left back solution in a permanent state, and they could do this at the end of the season and then lean into what Angus Kinnear had said about Leeds attacking the loan market in this window and bringing in a left back on loan until the end of the season. Possibly Leeds do need to sort that position out. We have a lot of square pegs around holes still, and that needs to be sorted out to get specialist players in specialist positions. Archie Brown's having a cracking season. He looks like a very good young up and coming left back, 21 years of age, good age as well, and it's a very young Leeds side, would fit in quite well with that group as well. Have to keep an eye on this over the next couple of weeks. It'll be interesting to see what happens, but as I said, we are getting closer and closer, and these things will start to flesh out. Speaking about January and potential returns from January of the huge amount of Leeds players that are out on loan at the moment, I'm talking about Brendan Aaronson. According to Bild in Germany, they are saying that Brendan Aaronson could return to Leeds United as early as January. Aaronson's loan over at Union Berlin started okay, but has gone off the boil pretty quickly. The player has moved fastly down the pecking order and is now comes on as a very late sub 70 to 80 minute substitute for Union Berlin. He has faced the same criticisms in Germany this season that he faced with Leeds in the Premier League last season. His lack of physical strength and his going to ground far too easily have been called out by the manager, have been called out by the press in Germany, and it hasn't gone particularly well. The US international will look to either kickstart his season with Union Berlin under a brand new manager who has been brought in to fix their failing season, with Berlin hanging around the bottom half of the Bundesliga. Aaronson hasn't registered a goal or an assist yet this season, and that's been a huge issue for a player who's an attacking player, who's a number 10 on paper, who hasn't been getting assists and goals. Union Berlin, as I said, have changed their manager, and one of the first things he may look to do is cancel the loans of Brendan Aaronson and Fofana going back to Chelsea and Brendan Aaronson coming back to Leeds. Union Berlin are expected to make moves in January to strengthen the squad in order to get out of the trouble they're in at the moment, and to do that they're likely to make move players on in order to make space for new players to come in as well. They are covering the full amount of Brendan Aaronson's wages as well, so that will be a concern for them. They are bringing in other players. The wages that Aaronson's taken up, will he play the rest of the season? It doesn't seem likely. So it is the possibility that Aaronson will come back to Leeds. Now, Leeds apparently are said that they would look to loan Brendan Aaronson out straight away again to another club in order to get his book value back up for a potential sale towards the end of the year or maybe into next year. Brendan Aaronson is one of the few players that have been tipped with a return to Leeds, and a player that Leeds will be open to taking back because of his young age and because of the potential that's still there. Although if he doesn't sort out the physical issues that he has in his game, he won't get much far in the top 5 leagues in the world, and especially in Europe, where that's a huge part of the game. So that's a huge concern for him. But yeah, interesting to see that Brendan Aaronson might be the first of the loanees to come back to Leeds and potentially head back out on loan straight away. We'll have to wait and see what happens there. Moving on to another potential incoming, and one that's been linked with Leeds for a while and has popped back up again. Leeds have been continually linked with Swedish under-21 goalkeeper Noel Törnqvist. We've covered it here a couple of times over the last few months. The Mjällby shotstopper has been in excellent form this season and has started to gain interest from plenty of clubs around Europe. He's played 34 of his 35 games at senior level in the 23 campaign. Now, Football Scandalin are saying that Leeds will have competition for the player, and that Leeds have actually gone and looked at the player. They state that Leeds have scouted the player on numerous occasions, but are now saying that Leeds will have some competition for the player. The player did comment previously on the link with Leeds United, saying that a move to the UK and to England would be a dream for him. Now, according to Calcio Mercato, they say that Genoa and Sassuolo in Serie A are very interested in the goalkeeper, and when you step down a level to Serie B, they're also saying that Venezia, Bari and Camoranesi in Serie B are very interested in the goalkeeper as well. He will be looked as a replacement for Chris Klassen, according to this article as well. Chris Klassen, who's lost his place to Danny van der Heuvel with the under-21 side, and is widely expected that he will leave Leeds in the coming months as well to try and kickstart his career. I've only played one senior appearance for Leeds in his time since he's been there under Jesse Marsh, started last season, I believe. So yeah, it's going to be an interesting one to keep an eye on. A good goalkeeper, very young goalkeeper as well. Leeds seem to be eyeing up a lot of young players, but this could be for the under-21 side, and that's important as well. Remember, there's two different recruitment teams. There's the senior team and the recruitment for the underage as well. The under-21 side is going to need some form of rebound for the next couple of years, with players aging out of the system, moving on, like Sean McGurk, like Danny van der Heuvel, like Chris Klassen. They need to be replacing that as well. So for Leeds will probably be looking at Tornquist as going into the 21 side for a bit before then maybe progressing into the senior side. With the likes of Barry Camoranesi and Venezia, he could be going in as a first choice goalkeeper. So there's things to consider there as well. Right, moving on. Last story today, this one's around Joe Rodon. And can Leeds actually keep? And there's a bit of rumblings around that Leeds are in could potentially move for Joe Rodon in January and make the move to Leeds permanent. However, there are some potential stumbling blocks depending on what Spurs can do themselves in the market. There is no recall clause apparently in Joe Rodon's deal. So doesn't look like he's likely to go back in January, more like the end of the season. His contract with Spurs runs for one further season at the end of the year when he does go back. According to Team Talk, they are saying that Spurs are very interested in making a move for Everton centre-back Jared Brantwaite. However, according to Everton's value, they state that a £75 million bid would be the minimum that they would accept for the player. Now, that's a very large sum of money for a player who's played very few games at this level. What it says here is that Spurs may look to sell Rodon to Leeds for £20 million if they can agree that fee with Leeds, and that £20 million will be used to try and fund some form of a deal to go and get Brantwaite for less than £75 million. It also says that if Everton were to stick with the £75 million price point, that would rule Spurs out of a move for the player, and at that point they would reassess their defensive options. In this, it says that Ange Postecoglou is a fan of fast-paced defenders. Joe Rodon has plenty of pace in his game, and that should they not be able to get defensive targets that they're looking for, that it could be a possibility that they bring Joe Rodon back at the end of the season and reintegrate him into the Spurs squad and look for him to play a bigger part than he has done with Spurs up until this point. Leeds are very interested in the player. Spurs did look for $15 million at the start of the season from Leeds. Leeds said no. Leeds wanted the loan deal. There's no option to buy, but the player is not of the same younger age that, say, Ben White was at when Leeds had this issue with Ben White. So there's a lot more hope that a deal between 15 and 20 million could be done for Leeds for Joe Rodon, but I would imagine it could be left until the end of the season. Automatic promotion, you could see Leeds making this move permanent. If Leeds stay in the Championship, would Rodon want to stay in the Championship? Do Leeds have the money then at that point to afford him? Because Leeds would lose a lot of players should they stay in the Championship. But that's a long way away, and it probably won't happen. So I'm confident Leeds will get out of the Championship again in the Premier League. Still am. If it's mathematically impossible, I'll still be confident we can do it. So that's going to be it for me today, folks. Thanks for watching as always, and I'll see you back tomorrow morning for more Leeds news. Have a great day. See you then. Bye.